Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. In this video, we have a whole bunch to cover for Star Citizen news for this week. We have 4.3.2 got officially put on the roadmap, so we now know what is going to be in that patch. We have some updates to the progress tracker, which do look somewhat interesting. We also have some leaked ships for CitizenCon slash IAE, and we even have a brand new testing group style, which we'll talk about that in just a second here. So we have a lot to go over, but before we get into it, if you are enjoying the videos and want to keep up with Star Citizen, feel free to subscribe. I do have channel memberships open if you wanted to go the extra mile, and feel free to join the community Discord. I will have a link for that down below, and I would absolutely love to have you there. Outside of that, let's jump into all of the Star Citizen news for this week. All right, now moving into 4.3.2, this patch is not looking too exciting for the sitcon patch, but maybe I'm mistaken here. The first thing we have is a new event related to the Fight for Pyro storyline. We will get into that in just a little bit here as we do kind of know a little bit more about that than what's actually released. We have the Klaus and Werner laser repeater art refactors. This is quite literally nothing gameplay related, just basically changing the visual style. We have the new Wicklow ship offerings. This includes the A2 Hercules, the Ares Starfighter Inferno and Ion, and the Prowler utility. So it's always nice to see some new Wicklow ships at the very least. We have a heavy battle tech armor. Now, we do have a picture for this. I'll put it up on screen here. I think this thing looks pretty sweet in my opinion. I know that for the most part, none of the armors really have a specific use case until we get things like Starware. So maybe this armor is supposed to have some cool functionality later down the line, but for now, as far as we're concerned, it is simply just a new heavy armor. We also have some new hairstyles, nothing crazy there, just like most of the patches this year. And then two from 4.3 and 4.3.1, we have the AI FPS turret and mission pickup on location. Honestly, I still don't expect these to release with this patch. Maybe this will be the patch they finally can manage to get them released, but just given that they've been delayed twice already, I'm not super confident that we see them in this patch. Right, and that really is the 4.3.2 patch. If we're going to be completely honest here, it does not look super interesting. I'm, of course, interested in the main event to see what that is, and the new armor looks pretty sick, but outside of that, it is looking pretty damn light on the content side of things. But we do have some updates to the progress tracker, so let's get into that really quick. All right, now the first thing we have here is base building. This has work scheduled till the end of October. Now, what I will say again, with most of the things on the progress tracker, whenever they have scheduled work, especially for big features like this, it typically does not mean it will release anytime soon around the time it ends, but it does give us a somewhat of a small idea as to what they're actually currently working on. I will say is that this year they have been a lot better about putting things on the progress tracker and actually having them released somewhat close to whenever their work is actually scheduled to end. But for something like base building and saying the end of October, that would be really wild. So I don't necessarily know why they even updated this, if we're going to be honest here. But I do know we're probably going to see this at CitizenCon, and maybe it'll have some big news drop for us related to base building. All right, then the next thing here is the command module. This is the part of the Ironclad and Caterpillar that can detach and reattach and whatnot. Really cool concept, but it has work scheduled until mid-February. So absolutely no way we see the Ironclad with this at least before that time period. And honestly, I think we get the Ironclad and Ironclad Assault at Invictus next year, or I guess Drake Defense Con. But we'll get into that at a later date. The next thing here is crafting, has work until mid-December. Really not all that important. Really just means we aren't getting crafting before that time period. And honestly, I wouldn't expect it even any time after that. Engineering has work until 1 week before the end of October, so a little bit less than base building. I don't think this signifies that much, but again, I just want engineering and tech preview, so hopefully we can get it maybe towards the start of November. I don't know. FPS radar and scanning has work until mid-December, just like crafting. Again, crafting, engineering, and FPS radar and scanning are all supposed to be in tech preview at some point. It's just a matter of when. Honestly, I have no idea though. Next thing here is the inventory rework. This has work scheduled till roughly 1 week before the end of October, just like engineering. Honestly, it's kind of interesting. It originally sounded like they were just putting this in concept and they were going to work on it later, but it seems like they've been really plowing into this inventory rework, and I appreciate that because the inventory system still sucks. I know they've been updating it and trying to make it better, but it's so tough to use. So I appreciate that they were working on this, but I don't necessarily expect to see it anytime soon. And then the last thing here is the transport refactor. This has work scheduled just like engineering 1 week before the end of October. I want this so bad in in the game just for the sake of like quality of life and whatnot. It's a really important factor too for instance content, which hopefully we also see a bit more next year. Things like the Area 18 municipal works and whatnot. I think the transport refactor basically will be required for systems like that. So really hope we see the transport refactor sometime soon. All right, and that really is it in terms of the progress tracker. Just to kind of wrap it up, I will say is that again, you cannot really trust the dates that are kind of put on the progress tracker, and you're not really supposed to either. But I will say this year it's been really weird. They've been putting stuff on the progress tracker that does release by the time the work ends, and then they've also been putting stuff like again, base building, engineering, crafting, all that jazz that of course has not released yet. I don't necessarily know, what to think of it, but hopefully things like engineering, which very clearly has not a lot of work scheduled, is something we see closer towards the end of the year, just like they talked about in last or 2 weeks ago, the SEL. I'm really, really hoping for that at the very least, but we will see. Again, we have CitizenCon really soon, so expect to see updates on most of the things that we talked about on the progress tracker. Just don't necessarily expect to see them in game too soon. All right, then the next thing we have here officially is select group gameplay testing that is coming soon. This really just sounds like a smaller form of Evocati, but rather than, of course, letting everyone talk about it and publishing patch notes and whatnot, everything is under NDA. So it sounds like they're going to be testing some big things here. I would not be surprised if it was something like control surfaces, which is going to be a big change for the game, and trying to get as much player feedback on that as early as possible sounds like a good idea, and that's probably one of the things that they will test in that. Again, that's just speculation, but across the board, there's really nothing crazy with this just yet. I do expect there to probably be some leaks with this whole new testing thing, but we don't really know yet. It happened or they announced it just 2 days ago. So nothing really crazy to report on just yet. But just to keep in mind, if you do play SC a lot and maybe you're kind of in the bracket to possibly be a tester, there's a chance that you get selected. So I'm excited to see what comes from this, but I don't expect to hear a lot about it. All right, then moving on to the leak side of things. All of this comes from the Discussing Whatever Discord. So if you are interested in actually checking these leaks out yourself, these all come from that Discord, and I will have a link to that down below. Feel free to check that out and support them as they do put out a good bit of the leaks that we cover on this channel. And for this leak specifically, it comes from the RSA website, so nothing data mine related. But basically, it's a way of fiddling with the comms link transmission link so that it autofills the rest of the link. And that, of course, gives us insight as to the ship or vehicles that could be releasing with a certain event. For CitizenCon specifically, I think this is all going to be CitizenCon related. But the first one we have here is the Anvil Paladin, straight to flyable. Nothing surprising about that. I think we all kind of expected that, and this really just confirms that suspicion. The next link is referring to the Asperia Stinger, which we of course have no idea about, but I am interested in it because I kind of do like the Asperia style. And then the next one, I quite literally have no guesses or clues as to what this could be. It's the Gray's Market Shiv. Now, if I'm missing something, if it's going over my head, just let me know in the comments. But as far as I'm concerned, I have quite literally no idea what this could be. And then there was also mention of a similar page being available for the Perseus in preparation for IAE. Of course, we already know the Perseus is releasing at IE, so nothing special there. But I am looking forward to seeing these all and checking them out. I think if there's one thing we knew for a fact we would see at CitizenCon this year, it is new ships that they're going to sell to us. So I'm not going to act like this is the craziest kind of leak for CitizenCon, but at the same time, it's interesting to know a little bit more about it ahead of the event. So I am certainly looking forward to that. I would love to know your thoughts on these. I know there's not much here to really dig into, but I am excited to see what they do have to offer us. And then just to really quickly circle back to the 4.3.2 content, The main event for that was already kind of data mined before in 4.3.1. This is referring to three phases with a choice between headhunters or citizens for prosperity. It should be a Frontier Fighters finale and hopefully an end to that storyline specifically. I don't think there's too much to say there, but I guess it is worth noting that that should be the finale of that storyline, so it probably won't go on anymore. And then hopefully we can get a storyline that slowly gets us moving towards the Nick system, which, maybe a little bit of cope there, but I'm looking forward to it regardless. I think it is also worth mentioning that during the making of this video, they updated us for the message of the day. We know that 4.3.2 might hit Evo by tomorrow, if not early next week on Monday. So, unfortunately, not this week, but I am looking forward to the information and data mines we do get from that patch. Tech preview might come back online this week. I doubt it. They ran into a blocker early this week, so they haven't talked about it since then, but there is a chance that we do see tech preview come online maybe in the next few days. And that really is going to do it for this video. I know there was a good bit of stuff that we talked about in this video, and I would appreciate to hear your thoughts down below on all these things. Are you excited for 4.3.2? Honestly, looks like a pretty small patch, especially for CitizenCon time, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a lot of fun. And then what do you think about all this other data mine stuff, or I guess leak stuff regarding the new ships and whatnot? I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any guesses as to what those could be or anything like that, again, I would love to know down below. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. I try and make it sure that there's not as much fluff in these videos and you can kind of get to that information as quickly as possible. So thank you again so much for watching and supporting the channel. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you in the next video.